I really want to understand in that sense, Pathikrit, do you think that Operation Sindoor did not have enough of objectives going into it, and then it should have been extended further?
Are you
No, I
asking
think
me?
Indian government was very, very clear about the end
Pathikrit.
objective. Uh, yeah, am I audible?
Yes. Please go ahead.
I think Indian government was very, very clear and categorical in terms of making sure that the end objective remains very, very, right in front of you. Because otherwise there are, examples. If you look at what happened on October 7, 2023, Israel started a war which is still continuing. Whether it is good or bad, that's something else. But as a country, when you are a $4 trillion economy, you have to feed 1.5 billion people. You just can't afford to get dragged into a limitless, endless war. So you have gone with a very, very specific mission in mind. Once that mission was accomplished to a considerable extent, you have you have made sure that it is done and you have withdrawn. Because I think, let's be very clear, there are countries in the world who would want India to get dragged into a limitless war, endless war, just like the Russians have got dragged into. So I think Indian government was very, very categorical. In fact, if you look at it, there can always be a debate as to whether we should have continued for another 3-4 days or not. But that is a never-ending debate. That is a decision that we civilians will have to leave it to the government of India and to the armed forces. If the government of India has taken a decision, it has been taken after taking into confidence the armed forces.
Okay.
Now, there are other aspects to it. Does it mean that there will be no more terror attacks? Well, two things. Number one, India has altered the threshold of its counter-terror response mechanism. It has made it very clear that every time there are evidence of cross-border connections to major terror attacks, this is the way we will hit you back, and we will hit you in a way you cannot predict it, because the next hit will not be like the previous one. However, it doesn't necessarily mean that India would be trigger happy. There was a very, very unfortunate, devastating terror attack in Delhi. It did not lead to another Operation Sindoor, because there were elements who again were radicalized from abroad or across the border, but India ensured that you don't get into it time and again. So there are two aspects. You have to keep the pressure on Pakistan, number one. However, you need to also do two things: create a de-radicalization architecture within the country as well, because radicalization online is happening. They are also changing their modus operandi, the Pakistanis or somebody else.
Right.
Other important aspect is last mile policing. Even if you look at what happened in Pahalgam, the last mile policing thing, the first respondent is always the beat constable or the team. I am not saying that every unit will be capable of dealing with armed terrorists, but last mile policing is something we should be very, very careful about in terms of equipping them. However, overall, if we presume that Pakistan is not going to try another Pahalgam, I think that should not be our thought process, because Pakistan will create another Frankenstein like Tehrik-e-Taliban if they do not allow Lashkar-e-Toiba or Jaish-e-Mohammed to do another terror attack.
Okay.
They will then hit again on Pakistan itself. So you have to be prepared for the next terror attack. And I think the government of India, in the last 1 year, even while refining its counter-terror mechanism, has done a tremendous amount of work within the country in neutralizing a lot of cells. You look at what is happening in Northeast India, a lot of people have been arrested. So it's a work in progress, it's a continuous thing, but to presume that it's done deal, well, that's not so.